So the title of this video says we are ranking every stage in Sonic Adventure DX. That is slightly wrong since we are actually going to be ranking much more than that. This video includes every boss fight, every action stage, every game mode, every sub-game, and even the adventure fields. The rankings are from A to E, with A being the best stages and E being the worst stages. And at the end, I'll pick my favorite stage overall. Ultimately, this list is entirely my own opinion, so your rankings are guaranteed to differ from mine. So please let me know your rankings and thoughts on these stages in the comments below. Some characters in this game share the same stages and boss fights. In most circumstances, I'll be ranking them separately. For Sonic and Tails, most of their stages will be ranked together because of how similar they are, but if say Sonic and Big share a stage, they'll be ranked separately because they just really aren't the same. I also want to mention that the ranks are based on how I see the stages compared to the rest of the game, not just that character's individual stages. Now let's get started on the rankings.
Oh yeah! This is happening!
Sonic Adventure starts with a boss fight, Chaos Zero. This is my first experience with Sonic the Hedgehog ever, and he's looking pretty cool here. At this point we really know nothing about this water monster, but we see that they can absorb bullets, which is nuts. Chaos Zero can jump really high and has a couple of attacks he can do, but they're pretty easy to avoid. After a few boops on the head using our new homing attack, Chaos escapes into a sewer while we get to see Eggman cackle from a rooftop. As a kid, it was pretty cool seeing Sonic take on a bulletproof enemy that even the police ran away from. Chaos Zero's fight is a good introduction to the story and main enemies, but not the most exciting fight overall. I'm sure they were just trying to get people used to 3D Sonic controls and the homing attack, so it makes sense that there isn't too much depth to it. I'm gonna put this one in the C tier, as there are much better boss fights ahead, and realistically, this one wasn't designed to be a game changer, as it is just the opening fight. After beating Chaos Zero, Sonic watches Tails crash his plane and then starts running after him in the beautiful Emerald Coast. Emerald Coast is one of my favorite stages. The music, level design, and stage theme are just perfect in my opinion. I absolutely love beach areas in games since I live in Canada, and at the time of recording, it is minus 30 degrees Celsius outside.
Man, everything's frozen!
Stages like Emerald Coast help me pretend I'm somewhere warm for a few minutes. I often slow down on the stage to take in the scenery and waterfalls. One thing that isn't great about this stage is the collision detection. It is pretty common to glitch out in some areas and fall to your death for no real reason. Apart from the minor glitches, I think Emerald Coast is great. There isn't a single point where I can say it drags or isn't fun. I heavily value exploration in secret areas and Sonic stages, and this stage does not disappoint. Nearly every section has hidden goodies or some alternative pathway to take. The only area I can think of that doesn't is the exciting Orca chase, but why would anyone want to skip that? As a speedrunner, this stage is really fun too, as there are many places where you can take advantage of the level design to skip areas or get to places in unintended ways. For example, you can speed dash all the way up this mountain by the lighthouse, which saves a lot of time compared to taking the regular pathway, and it just looks much cooler. The music is also amazing. Windy and Ripley is one of my favorite tracks in the entire Sonic franchise, and the opening tune, Azure Blue World, is just as good. This stage brings me back to my first ever gaming memories, and I can't help but be happy anytime I play this stage or even hear the music. I recognize I'm heavily biased towards this stage because of nostalgia, but I love it for all the reasons I've said, and even more that I just can't fit into this video. Emerald Coast is an easy A rank, an amazing first stage, and a great introduction to Sonic for me.
Wow, what a nice coast! Look, it's a giant talking egg!
Next up is the Egg Hornet, which we see as both Sonic and Tails. This is the first time our characters directly encounter Dr. Eggman and fight him. The Egg Hornet shoots missiles and then lunges with two big spikes. The lunge attack is the only weakness of the Hornet, as it leaves Eggman vulnerable right in front of you, but he still decides to use this attack repeatedly when he could just fire missiles endlessly instead. This boss fight honestly is kind of a joke. With Sonic, you can homing attack him repeatedly and take him out in one attack cycle instead of 3. You can't do this with Tails sadly, but the fight doesn't last a whole lot longer for him anyways. This is a pretty underwhelming intro to Eggman as the main antagonist. It is our first fight with him, so I get why he isn't more complex here, but I still think they could have done better. The boss arena being the Mystic Ruins adventure field itself is really cool, but this area is super bland and seems to only exist for this fight. The Chaos Zero fight arena served as a courtyard with some hidden secrets and is also where Knuckles enters Speed Highway in his story. The Egg Hornet arena serves no purpose besides this fight. There's one mission in mission mode, but that mission could have realistically occurred anywhere. But honestly, the mission should not have existed at all.
Oh no!
The arena here though is boring, it's just a big flat circle with sand. It would have been so cool if we could go up to Tails' workshop and fight around that area too. We already had Chaos Zero as a simple intro boss, so I feel like they should have increased the difficulty and complexity with this fight. Sorry Eggman, but I think the Egg Hornet belongs in the E tier.
You know nothing, fool!
Windy Valley is our next stage, and it starts you off in this area where you can find invisible lizard enemies and some new fire-breathing guys. The first area of the stage before the tornado is great and is very memorable. In Sonic's version, we run on some wind and get sucked into a tornado after finishing the first section. I actually remember struggling to figure out how to run on the wind when I was playing this as a kid. It just never occurred to me that Sonic could do that, so it took me a while to get past this part, but it's a really cool segment. The music here is also fantastic and creates a great atmosphere for this level. Gamma's version of Windy Valley only features the first half of Sonic's stage, but has a slightly different pathway, which ends with a boss fight for Gamma. Splash, block the missile! Yes, Splash got the missile! Oh gosh, Splash knocked him out of bounds! Inside the tornado, there's a little platforming section that is pretty cool as it helps us to escape the tornado. Even though Gamma doesn't have a tornado, it's still pretty fun and a good level for him, as it is only this awesome intro section and not the less good second half. The second half of the stage, or Tails' only section, can be really quick if you know what you are doing. There are many areas where you can just jump off the edge of the stage and land at the very end. It is a bit harder to do with Sonic, but not hard at all with Tails, as you can easily fly and avoid any death planes the developers added. There are major skips on the stage, but not a whole lot of hidden areas with goodies, and the skips honestly more kind of feel like developer oversights rather than intended tricks or skips. The stage honestly is really short for Tails and not much longer for Gamma or Sonic. Once you know what you are doing, you can speed through any version really quickly. The music and unique level design makes the stage memorable and fun, but it just really isn't one of my favorite stages in the game. I think this is mostly due to just how quick the whole stage is, and just that the second act, or second half of the stage, really isn't too amazing. The tornado is cool and is memorable, but it isn't overly exciting on repeat playthroughs, as it doesn't really let you pick up speed, but instead requires you to ascend vertically with springs and launch pads. The area after that is fun, but doesn't really blow me away at all. Windy Valley is an enjoyable stage to go through on each playthrough, but isn't really a stage that I find myself picking to replay often. Let's put it into the B tier, as it is still a good stage, but not one of the best in the game in my opinion.
Hey, let go! Ah! Whoa! Whoa!
Next up is Casinopolis. Sonic gets to do some gambling at the slots, gets to play cards, and even gets his own fancy pinball machine. What does Tails get to do?
Come on,
He gets
Tails.
immediately thrown into the disgusting enemy-filled sewers. Sorry, Tails. Also, for some reason, Tails loses a life when Sonic finishes first, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
I got it!
We're on the same team, Sonic. This isn't specific just to Casinopolis, but more of an issue with Tails' story as a whole.
Hey, hey, hey! All right, Tails!
The goal of Casinopolis is to get 400 rings deposited in this area here and then grab the emerald. It has always shocked me how these claw arms swoop in and grab Sonic before violently shaking his rings away. This feels a little bit too relatable here. The two pinball machines Sonic can play on are both cool, my favorite being the Knights one. This might be a bit strange since I've never actually played a Knights game before, but the card matching and alternate area both make it much more exciting than the Sonic pinball machine. If you manage to come out of a pinball machine with less than 100 rings, you get thrown into the sewers with Tails. Now the sewers, despite being the only area with enemies, are actually great for ring farming. There are an absolute shit ton of rings in this area, and this area actually has some very basic platforming compared to the rest of the stage, which has no enemies and nothing really to do besides play the slots or play pinball. This area gets you a ton of rings, and you can even have a shower afterwards too. No idea why this shower area is here, but I like it. It is actually possible to beat this stage without getting a single ring, but it involves a very hard skip. You have to clip out of bounds and then launch yourself past the invisible barrier that blocks the emerald. I used to be able to do it pretty consistently back when I speedran this game, but I'm not all that good nowadays. It took me a long time to record this clip here. The tracks for this stage are pretty good too, but they aren't among my favorites from this game. Casinopolis is a good stage if you are a big pinball fan or really enjoy Knights. I don't really fit into either of these categories, so the stage will be going into the C tier for me. Also, on our way to the next stage, Eggman drugs both Sonic and Tails. Not cool, Eggman. Not cool. After recovering from Eggman's brutal fart gas, we get to Ice Cap. The stage has two sections. First, there's a platforming section that mostly involves jumping on these icicles. Sonic slips off of them if you are not fast enough, but the section overall is pretty easy and can actually be skipped with some well-placed spin dash jumps. Tails' version just straight up skips this part and jumps right to the best part, the real part of the stage, and the part that most people like. Snowboard time, woohoo! Both Tails and Sonic ride snowboards down a mountain, and it is amazing. Be Cool, Be Wild, and Be Groovy is one of my favorite tracks in the whole game and is perfect for this section. The snowboarding section features many jumps and even some alternate routes to take. This stage and City Escape both have me convinced that Sonic could have his own successful snowboarding game similar to 1080 snowboarding. Ice Cap's first section overall isn't anything too special and can mostly be skipped, but the snowboarding part is one of the highlights of Sonic Adventure DX for me. There's only one major negative aspect of this level, Mission 53. This mission is by far the hardest mission in the game and requires you to make 3 super jumps at the end here, just like this.
Oh! Yes! 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 Oh my god, we did it!
It is extremely hard to do. Despite the weaker first half of the stage, I really do enjoy the stage overall. It is one that I usually will visit in trial mode when replaying the game. Usually I'll just play as Tails though, because I don't really want to play the first part. Let's put Ice Cap into A tier. I'd say honestly it's probably lower A tier, like upper B tier, but let's just go A tier. I love this stage.
Okay.
After Ice Cap, we get our first boss fight against a playable character, Knuckles. Let's see how it goes.
Oh no. Oh no. Give it. Oh no.
That was it. That was really it. You have to hit Knuckles 3 times and he always says the same exact voice line. This voice line has been a meme for a very long time and makes this fight so much better.
Give it. Oh no.
You can actually hit Knuckles repeatedly after beating him too if you want to hear the voice line even more and just drag out the fight for much longer.
Oh no.
When you play as Knuckles and fight Sonic, Sonic even says the same voice line too.
I had enough. Oh no.
The fight itself is honestly garbage, but it makes me laugh every time and is a great addition to Sonic Adventure DX. Normally, I don't really like the sections that we have to play as multiple characters, but this fight is 100% worth doing 3 times. Let's put it into the B tier. Easily the best boss fight so far.
Give it your best. Oh no.
Time for another garbage boss fight, except this time we don't have Knuckles to laugh at. Chaos 4, you fight as Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, with all of them having to do varying amounts of damage to win. Otherwise though, it is the exact same fight 3 times. Chaos 4 actually has a really cool design in terms of their physical appearance. Chaos becomes a shark that has these really big claw arms that can swim pretty fast. You think he would have a pretty cool boss fight to make use of this great design, but Sonic Team dropped a real stinker on this one. Chaos 4 is a long, drawn-out fight that isn't hard at all, and it doesn't really even make much sense either. Chaos 4 launches the same few attacks at you and then just every so often comes up above the water so you can hit him. He doesn't seem to actually need oxygen to survive, so I don't really know why he's coming up for air. Most bosses' weak points appear because of an attack they missed or something similar. For Egg Hornet, we only got to attack Eggman after he missed the lunge attack. I'm not sure what is actually stopping Chaos 4 from just staying underwater the whole time and beating us, except for the fact that this is a video game and needs to be beatable. This fight just really drags out, as you really are just waiting for the opening to appear for pretty much the whole fight, as his attacks are easily avoidable, especially with Tails and Knuckles, who can both fly. The fact that you fight this guy 3 times makes it even worse, since it already is too long with just a single character. I didn't mind the previous fight happening 3 times because it is quick, but this one ain't quick, and it sure isn't fun. Chaos 4 is going to the E tier.
I'm not too fond of places like this.
So after those 2 interesting boss fights, we get to experience the first act of Sky Chase. I'll be ranking both Act 1 and Act 2 here together for the rankings because this video is already going to be long enough. I can't be wasting too much time on stages like these. So Sky Chase is a sub-stage where you fly the tornado up to the egg carrier. In Act 1, you fly around it before getting shot out of the sky. In the second act, you have to destroy the front cannon first before landing, but otherwise it is pretty much the same apart from this transformation sequence and some new enemies in the second act. Although you kill the new enemies the exact same way as the other ones, they don't really do any extra damage or anything, so yeah. I'm not sure what the point of the tornado transforming was, as it doesn't seem to speed you up or improve the tornado in any way, other than it being shaped differently. Which actually turns out to be a downside, as now we don't have any landing gear and we have to crash land. I am not the biggest fan of these stages. They honestly feel like a waste of time to me while playing this game. Luckily though, through some developer oversight, they managed to implement a solution for this. In both acts, you can simply fly into the top right corner of the screen and leave the plane there. If you do not move from this spot, you'll make it through the stage without dying. In the second act, you still have to actually destroy the cannon at the end, but in the first act, you can beat the stage without even pushing the shoot button. This makes it the perfect time to take a bathroom break or get some snacks in the middle of your playthrough. Tails also goes through the exact same sequence too, so you have to play each act twice, which kinda sucks. It would have been cool if each character had different controls or some kind of difference in these stages. If they weren't able to design something special for Sonic here, then they should have just made this a cutscene in his story and instead have this as an exclusive stage for Tails. Having the plane flying stage be just for Tails makes sense, as he's the only character we ever see fly a plane. Except for Big? I have no idea how the hell he managed to fly the tornado this one cutscene. What the hell, Sonic Team? Overall though, Sky Chase is a pretty easy addition to the E tier for me. It probably would have scored better for me if it was just a Tails stage and not in Sonic's story, but I really don't get excited to play this one. It's just so long and you have to play it too many times.
Tails?
Welcome to Twinkle Park.
Oh yeah, Twinkle Park. This is a breath of fresh air after Sky Chase and Chaos 4. Twinkle Park starts with a really fun kart section with some jumps, rings to collect, and even some speedrun shortcuts that are really cool, but also insanely risky. This opening section is great. I really like how they introduce different gameplay mechanics for certain stages in this game. I think this opening kart section is very comparable to Ice Cap's snowboarding section in terms of greatness. After karting, we get to experience the main portion of the park, potentially the most dangerous theme park in existence. Sonic starts off riding a roller coaster with fireworks going off directly next to his head.
Oh, no.
Then the coaster comes to a complete stop from full speed and launches passengers into a wall before falling a pretty significant distance. This thing is straight out of Roller Coaster Tycoon. You will likely die if you go here. The merry-go-round of death, Sonic bowling, and other carnival features add a lot of character to the stage and make it quite memorable and unique. The tracks for both this section and the kart section are amazing. The kart section is actually a 3D Blast remix, and it is so good. Twinkle Park has some fun level design with some goodies and secrets hidden away too. The stage is a really fun one for speedrunners, as many sections are skippable by using spin dash jumps. Twinkle Park is a really creative stage that features many memorable sections and is always fun to play through. Easy A rank for me here. I wish Big and Amy's versions were this good.
That girl is such a pain.
So after Twinkle Park, we get thrown into Speed Highway, and man, this stage is awesome. The stage has two main sections, and both are interesting and unique in their own way. The first one gives you many areas to pick up speed, and at one point you even catch a ride on a helicopter. I'm not the biggest fan of the yellow platforming area here, but with some speedrun tricks, you can actually skip that entire section. The main reason I don't like it is it kind of just introduces an auto-scrolling kind of dynamic to the stage that I just really don't think should be in Sonic levels. I think this part here actually inspired many other future Sonic games. In Cityscape, we run down a building in pretty much the exact same way. And in Bingo Highway, we have a similar section where we fall through glass. After running down the really tall building, we get to an area similar to the Station Square Adventure Field, as we can see cars driving around and can even get chased by the police. This area has lots of charm and is fun to explore, and once again has a great track too. The first section also has good music, but I particularly like the track At Dawn, which plays during this portion of the stage. Speed Highway is a lot of fun to replay, has great music, and is very memorable due to the creative level design, which clearly inspired future levels too, and I'm sure is the reason it got into Generations over other stages. Speed Highway is an easy addition to the A tier.
The cars are so slow. They look like they're not moving.
Next up, we got Red Mountain. Red Mountain has many ways for Sonic to get around. Sonic uses monkey bars, a zip line, and occasionally gets launched by an eruption going off directly underneath it. I really like the track for the first half of the stage. The second section has a decent track too, but the first one just rocks. I love the little piano melody that plays throughout it. Sonic Adventure DX has such a great variety of music, it's so good. The whole second section of the stage is quite interesting as Sonic actually goes into hell. Not kidding, the mission mode for this game directly refers to this area as hell. You may think Shadow the Hedgehog had this word first in the franchise, but Sonic Adventure DX has it beat by a whole 3 years.
Damn, this can't be.
Red Mountain overall for both characters has some interesting platforming, but is not nearly as memorable as stages like Twinkle Park or Speed Highway for Sonic, or some of the other stages for Gamma. I feel like the stage could have been longer for Gamma. It kind of sucks that they gave him the same treatment as Tails, where he only plays half of a Sonic stage. It still has goodies to find and collect, and many different shortcuts that skilled players can take, but I don't really find myself revisiting this stage nearly as often as the others. This could be because of the hike you have to embark on to even start the stage, but I think it mostly just relates to the lack of speed you get in this stage. The second area has a couple of sections where you can go fast, but the first area really lacks speed, as there are a lot of enemies and the stage design doesn't really allow you to build up speed at any point, as you are almost always starting and stopping right away. Ultimately, the level just doesn't have the same wow factor as other stages ranked high on this list. It's still a good stage, just the lava theme or volcano theme or whatever just really isn't for me. Even with that said, the setting and music themes for this stage are great. Like seriously, so good. Let's put Red Mountain in the C tier. Still a great stage, just doesn't have the extra pizzazz or wow factor that the A or B rank stages have. After Red Mountain, we have another quick round of Sky Chase, and then bam, Sky Deck. More like Poop Deck, this stage is shit. Like seriously. This one is easily the worst Sonic stage in the game. There's little to no speed, and the collision can be very glitchy at points. Once we get above the egg carrier, we get to experience the wind, which is actually a pretty cool idea, but the execution here is lacking. Tails' Sky Deck stage actually ends before you even reach this point and can be easily beaten in under 45 seconds. Tails' flying completely breaks this stage and makes it a joke. At the end of the stage, the ship tilts directions and messes up the controls and often gives you camera issues. Some sections also get really bugged out by the tilting mechanic, and it really messes up Sonic's ability to move properly. This isn't really an issue for Tails, but his version of the stage is so short that it's easy to forget the stage even exists. Speedrun tricks can help you avoid a lot of the crappier parts of this stage for Sonic, but most players will not be able to use those skills. The stage has some really good music, and I do think the concept of an egg carrier stage is cool, but the execution is just really bad here. Skydeck is going into the D tier, just narrowly avoiding the E tier. After finishing Skydeck, we take on Gamma. This fight is just as easy as the Knuckles fight we looked at earlier, but sadly it just isn't as funny. It doesn't have much of an impact on the story for Tails or Sonic, but does have more meaning once you played Amy or Gamma's story. I really wish they had more depth to these character fights, as it really is a cool idea fighting a character that you play as. Sadly though, they fight as if it's a toddler holding the controller and fighting against you. At least in Gamma's story, you can shoot the crap out of Sonic, which is kind of amusing. This one's going in the D tier. Definitely not a highlight in Sonic's story.
Oh no!
Chaos 6 is probably the most unique boss in the game. I have no idea what this design of Chaos is supposed to be, but he is downright wacky here. This is also the only version of Chaos to fight Big the Cat. This is actually the only boss that Big even has. Yeah, fights with quotation marks there, as I wouldn't really even call this a fight. For Big, we have to cast our rod into Chaos and fish out our buddy Froggy. Easy win. Sonic and Knuckles also fight Chaos 6, with each battle having slight differences. Both of them have to throw these ice robots at Chaos 6 and then hit him when he freezes up. Both Sonic and Knuckles can use their respective power-ups to take out Chaos 6 in 2 hits instead of 4, which is kind of anticlimactic. It is cool that they gave these upgrades a use, but they make this fight even more underwhelming, honestly. This is Chaos' form when he is only 1 emerald away from all 7 emeralds, and this is how strong he is. For Sonic, it is possibly forgivable since he still has both Perfect Chaos and the Egg Viper to fight, but this is Knuckles' final boss fight, and it isn't great. His attacks barely differ from what Sonic encounters, and the boss arena is the exact same except for some holes in the floor. I can't help but feel that they did Knuckles dirty by not giving him his own unique final boss fight. Every character except for him and Big get their own final boss. Even Tails, who shares almost every single stage with Sonic, still gets his own final boss. With all of this in mind, I'm putting Chaos 6 into the D tier. Chaos 6 could have been much better, especially for Knuckles' fight. We are getting really close to the end of Sonic's story, as this is the second last stage for him. Lost World really stands out to me compared to some of the other Sonic stages. Lost World has many interesting gimmicks that we don't really see in any other stage. It features some slower sections, more closely resembling a puzzle game, as we have to hit certain switches and at one point use mirrors to advance. The stage is really fun to speedrun, as it has many skips to avoid the slower sections and still maintain some speed. Without these tricks, Lost World is a bit of a slower stage, but it still is quite fun. It clearly tries to be a trickier stage, as it doesn't really have many enemies and relies on the stage elements themselves to add challenge. The glitchiness adds to the difficulty, as it is very easy to just randomly fall off the snake at this section or experience camera troubles in certain areas, but the stage overall is relatively stable for the most part. The themes and areas of this stage are very memorable and are all exciting to go through. I think Lost World has the same level of creativity as Twinkle Park, which I gave very high praise to earlier. The part where the camera shifts around and you run from a boulder is fun, and I really like the section after the snake with the mirrors, but only if you run through it really fast and don't actually stop to use the mirrors like intended. In the Sonic Adventure DX release, the area lights up magically on its own if you move fast enough, and you can even skip pretty much the entirety of the snake section with some well-placed spin dash jumps. The wall running sections at the end can be somewhat skipped too. I really wanted to put this one in the A tier because of the skips, but I've realized most players aren't using these to avoid the slower sections, making the stage more fitting for the B tier. If it really was an A tier stage, I probably wouldn't be trying to skip large sections, so the B tier sounds about right for this one. After Lost World, we get to Final Egg, the last stage in Sonic's story. First, we've just got to solve this little puzzle here. Let's see. Finally! Oh my god, this always takes me forever. I suck at this. The stage starts off with a bunch of enemies, some lasers, and a whole bunch of other dangerous obstacles. You know you're in the final level right away here. Most of the other stages are based off of places that you can see in real life, like a beach or a theme park. This stage feels like a video game stage that Eggman designed, which is a great way to end off the story for Sonic. The music is pretty good for this stage too. I particularly like the track for the second section. This stage is easily the longest stage Sonic goes through as it has 3 acts within it. My favorites being the first and the last one. The middle act of the stage really drags as it has sections where you have to sit and wait for platforms before making a jump. The weird thing too is that this section isn't over a bottomless pit, yet you die when you fall down. Sonic fell much farther after Sky Chase and was fine. I don't get why falling to a further section in this stage suddenly kills Sonic. Besides that though, the stage overall is pretty good as it does introduce some new level elements like these spinning wheels and these fans that you can float on. This is one of the harder stages in the game, which makes sense as we're approaching the final boss, but overall I do think this stage could have been a tad bit harder. I think Lost World gave me more trouble growing up, but both stages are pretty easy nowadays. One thing Final Egg does a really good job at is hiding secret goodies and having alternate routes. Especially in the last area where you can find a Sonic head made out of rings. Pretty cool, right? This section is where Gamma stage takes place, but we'll talk about that stage later on. In fact, you can actually skip the final chunk of Sonic stage here once you reach this elevator by making a crazy spin dash go. Take a look. The skip is pretty tricky to do, but it feels great hitting it. Sonic's version of Final Egg is really good overall and a great final stage for the Blue Hedgehog. I think it belongs in the B tier. If the second section was better, it would likely be an A, but honestly, I don't really find myself replaying this one often. It is kind of like Lost World, where I would rather skip certain sections than play them. Still a great stage though. The final boss for Sonic's story is the Egg Viper. This boss is one of my favorites in the game. It is a great balance between challenge and fun.
Well, if it isn't my pal Sonic, I'm surprised you made it this far.
Eggman fires lasers at Sonic before trying to charge up a big shot. It's during this time that you can attack him, and I love how Eggman does little dances while waiting for Sonic to attack. He is so confident that you can't hit him, yet makes the same mistake repeatedly. He also at one point just flat out destroys half of Sonic's running area, which opens up a big question. Why doesn't Eggman just do this to the whole boss arena? Eggman could easily take out Sonic from the start, but just doesn't. I guess he really does respect Sonic? I don't really know the logic going on here. At the end of the fight, Eggman unleashes one last kamikaze attack.
Watch out, he's up to something.
I think this is a great addition and a welcome surprise for new players. I feel like more boss fights should have something like this. As for the rankings, I think Egg Viper is an easy A tier. It is a perfect end to Sonic's story and a great final fight against Eggman. So now that Sonic's story is done, let's take a quick look at all of our picks so far. As you can see, the A tier is leading the way with 5 stages already, and the E tier is a whopping 3. I'm hoping the next stories have lots of A and B stages, but I have a feeling we're going to see a lot more stages in the bottom half. Now, let's move on to Tails' story. We'll only be ranking Tails' unique stages or the stages that I felt were different enough from Sonic's to be ranked on their own. So if you're just skipping to this part to see Tails' stages, well, you already missed about half of them in Sonic's story. Either way, let's get on to Tails' story.
Here I come, Sonic!
The first stage we are ranking that is specifically for Tails is Sand Hill. I know, it's pretty crazy that we're this far into Tails' story already. This stage has us boarding once again, but this time on sand. The stage also has a whole bunch of these red poles to ride between to get score multipliers. Sadly, Sand Hill doesn't really have any jumps to do tricks on, but there are a lot more obstacles here than in Ice Cap. Personally, to me, Sandhill is just a worse version of Ice Cap. Having no ramps and therefore no tricks kinda ruins the wow factor of boarding, and the music just isn't anywhere near as good as what plays in Ice Cap. This is still a fun stage to play, but I rarely ever return to it as Ice Cap fills my need for boarding while being much better. I do, however, like the story behind this stage. It is kinda cool that Tails just has his own little side plot of chasing down Froggy to get a Chaos Emerald. Kinda cool. Besides that though, not really too great of a stage. Let's put Sandhill in the C tier. Now we jump on ahead to Speed Highway, Tails' final stage. See what I mean when I said that almost all of Tails' story was in Sonic's part of the video? Well, this stage is a unique one for Tails because we don't race Sonic. Instead, we're racing Eggman. This is actually really cool as this is arguably the first stage for Tails that truly has a purpose. Every stage before this was just racing Sonic and trying to beat him, but now, Tails actually has to be the hero and save the day. At this point in the story, Eggman has just given up on everything and lost his mind. He decides to try and blow up Station Square with a large missile that he just summons out of nowhere. Not only is this a crazy twist, but it is insane that Eggman is willing to blow up the city while he is still in it. He doesn't even care if he makes it, he just wants to blow up everyone at this point. Station Square's plot armor does save the day though, as the missile turns out to be a dud.
No, it was a dud. I can't believe
Nice work,
it.
Eggman. Here, let's get into the stage now. Speed Highway is extremely open, which really lets you take advantage of Tails' speed and flying abilities. You can zoom through the stage super fast, but make sure to watch out for invisible walls. It is pretty easy to die if you try to go to an area that is not part of the stage, or come at an area from the wrong direction. The game doesn't always make it 100% obvious what areas are part of the stage and which aren't. Sometimes you think you can take a certain shortcut, but then psych, invisible wall, and death. I think part of my problem here might be that I have played so much of Sonic's version that I often try to go to one of his sections while playing as Tails and then just die instead. The openness of this stage is quite fun as it really lets you use Tails' speed and flying abilities without having to worry too much about dying. Plus, the stage is actually longer than 30 seconds, which is great as most of Tails' other stages are way too short. I'd say overall Speed Highway is a B tier stage for me. I think it could easily be an A-rank stage if it was slightly longer and maybe had some more unique level design at certain points. Overall, it's still a great stage for Tails though.
Yeah!
After destroying Eggman in that race, we take him on outside of the casino where he had previously drugged us. Still haven't forgiven you for that, Eggman, by the way. Not cool. Eggman's dialogue leading up to the fight is great and really shows the ominous side of Eggman.
You fool. Away, before I make mincemeat out of you.
Seriously, I think this is like the scariest Eggman ever has been. The story around this fight about Tails not needing Sonic and believing in himself is great too, and a fantastic end to the Tails storyline. The Eggwalker is Tails' final boss, and I love how it takes place in the Station Square adventure field. The fight itself is actually really easy. The Rhythm Badge turns Tails into a deadly flying Beyblade that wipes out everything in its path. Eggman tries to stomp on you and drop bombs, but really, he doesn't have any attacks that are hard to dodge. This is a much less exciting fight than the Egg Viper, but I really enjoy being able to destroy Eggman with Tails. Even without much difficulty, it is still a fun fight and one that I look forward to on every playthrough. Eggwalker is going into the A tier. With Tails now fully ranked, let's move on to Knuckles.
Okay, let's go.
Before we start Knuckles' story, here's a quick update on the tier list at the moment. Only 3 extra segments added for Tails here, but they ranked pretty good with 1A, 1B, and 1C rank. Knuckles' story starts off with him getting bodied by Chaos. Chaos manages to get out of the Master Emerald, catching Knuckles off guard right before he ends up launching Knuckles down this massive set of stairs. Chaos then pieces out, letting Angel Island fall from the sky. Knuckles now, who has no idea what the fuck just happened, goes on a hunt for the Master Emerald shards, which are now missing. He somehow senses they could be in Speed Highway though. Knuckles' version of Speed Highway is the third and final time we'll be in this stage. This time though, we can more properly explore as we have Knuckles' climbing and flight abilities. This section has a great theme and is fun to explore as it closely resembles the Station Square adventure field, as there are cars driving around and interesting hidden goodies all over the place. This stage is a perfect size and shouldn't give new players much trouble. Despite being a pretty easy stage, I still have a lot of fun with this one because of the exploration and just how cool of an area this part of Speed Highway is. Let's put this stage into the A tier, a great start for Knuckles. To get into Knuckles' next stage, Casinopolis, we have to first climb up onto this Chao in Space billboard before we can fly to the switch which opens the door. This billboard is quite interesting. The future is their hands. It's It's pretty hard to read what these other words say because there's a grand total of 20 pixels among them, but I think this one maybe says Chow Kill, and this one maybe says Land Heat. I'm not sure what these were originally supposed to be prior to translation, but the tagline at the top kills me with how badly it is translated. Alright, now for the actual stage. Knuckles' version of Casinopolis is my favorite version of the game. We get to explore the top area of the stage, which has some real interesting stuff. There are pirates, a giant lion, and there was even a suggestive cowgirl that was supposed to be here, but was ultimately cut from the game after the first release. The stage also has a giant gold Sonic statue, which Knuckles can destroy. The details added to this stage make it quite memorable and fun to explore as Knuckles. Casinopolis is a really small stage for Knuckles, as right off the start you usually already have a reading from at least one piece of the Master Emerald, and the stage doesn't really feature any crappy spots for the emeralds to spawn. Some of them are a bit hidden, but the stage is fairly quick and easy overall. Playing as Knuckles and having the ability to fully explore Casinopolis is great, and I really like how they gave Knuckles extra areas that weren't present for Sonic or Tails. Let's put this one in the B tier, as it is the best version of Casinopolis and another fun Knuckles stage. After spending some time hallucinating with Tikal, Knuckles encounters Dr. Eggman, who decides to use Knuckles as a guinea pig to test out the power of Chaos, who now has 2 emeralds. You'd think Chaos would be much stronger now that he actually has emeralds, right? Nah, this fight is just about as easy as the first fight against Chaos Zero. I do like that Knuckles gets his own unique Chaos boss fight, but the execution here could have been better. Chaos 2 doesn't really have all that many attacks, and it really doesn't take long to beat him. You can easily cheese this boss by just flying directly into him repeatedly. I do think it is cool to get to see Chaos 2 like this, but I really wish we got to see Chaos 3 and 5, as they are never shown in the game and could have been really cool bosses. Chaos 2 is a slight improvement over Chaos 0, but nothing too crazy or interesting. Therefore, Chaos 2 is going into the C tier, same as Chaos 0.
Is that all you got?
Next up is Red Mountain. Knuckles' version of this stage is in the same place as the starting area of Sonic's stage. Red Mountain once again has a great track. This playthrough though, we get to use Knuckles' climbing and flying to better explore the area. There aren't as many fun details as Casinopolis or Speed Highway, but the environment in the stage is still quite charming. The stage is the first to utilize digging for Knuckles, which can make the stage a bit tougher as this game does not have the helpful digging indicator like Sonic Adventure 2 does. This is the biggest Knuckles stage by far, meaning it is usually the longest to complete in a playthrough. It is also the tallest Knuckles stage, meaning you will most likely have to spend some time climbing at some point, which isn't always the most exciting thing. Thankfully, the hint guides are extremely helpful for anyone who's struggling to find all 3 pieces, and it is still realistically possible to complete the stage in a short period of time due to how quickly you can navigate the area. Even though this stage is the biggest, I would guess that it is about 1/3 the size of the biggest stages in Sonic Adventure 2, which are considerably larger and have a worse emerald radar. Red Mountain overall is a pretty good Knuckles stage and a fitting addition to the B tier. I think it would rank higher if it had more interesting areas to explore, but I think B is a fair ranking for this stage. Up next we got Lost World, which is just another single section of one of Sonic's stages that we looked at earlier. This time we have the ending section of Lost World with the weird gravity paths. Thankfully, Knuckles doesn't really need them as he can climb and fly to get around, but you do have to be cautious. The stage has lots of booby traps to run into, and quite often the camera blocks your vision of them right before you climb into them. The most annoying part of this stage though is accessing it in the first place.
2 stone statues. The door to the past.
We have to bring 2 statues from the jungle to the temple before we can get into the stage. The game gives you one of them right away, but the second one is hidden and pretty hard to find. The jungle is quite big with very few landmarks, making it very easy to get lost. Between this annoying way to get into the stage and the small size of it, Lost World is very disappointing. Knuckles' version of the stage does not include any details or hidden areas that weren't in Sonic's version, which I think is a really big missed opportunity. Throughout the game, we saw how the events of the Echidna tribe affected the plot and the events the characters are going through. In Sonic's version of the stage, we get to see a big mural of perfect chaos, which is a fun detail the developers added. Knuckles' version has nothing like this. Nothing. Knuckles doesn't even really acknowledge where we are and the significance of it. The stage just ends with Knuckles being sent to see Tikal, but afterwards, he is still just really confused.
What? I'm back in front of the altar. This is beginning to blow my mind.
They really should have
Wait a
added some
minute.
new areas for Knuckles to explore that featured some murals of Tikal and the other Echidnas. Lost World for Knuckles isn't really too bad of a stage if you're looking at it purely based on level design, but as soon as you consider what could have been, it starts to look much worse. Let's put Lost World into the D tier. This one easily could have been an A rank with some extra work and thought from the developers. The final stage for Knuckles is Skydeck, and similarly to Sonic's version, it's not good. Knuckles' version of Skydeck only features the worst part of Sonic's stage and requires you to use this damn lever here to adjust the tilt of the ship to find emeralds. I hate this lever. I've been playing this game for years and I still struggle to even change the direction of this thing. The stage doesn't really have much to explore and really feels empty compared to other stages in the game. It is possible I just somehow missed these spots all these years, but I really don't remember finding any hidden areas worth exploring or any that featured goodies. Tilting the ship can sometimes reveal areas that have ring boxes, but the tilting mechanic is so frustrating to use that it is just not worth going for those ring boxes. The stage really just doesn't have anything fun that stands out to me. The music is pretty good, but honestly, that's about the only positive thing I can say about this stage. I'm not having fun in this one, and neither is Knuckles. At least with Knuckles in this game though, we can use an infinite ring glitch to get rich and buy an absolute shit ton of grapes, Knuckles' favorite food. This makes up for the crappy stage, right? Not really. This one's going in the E tier. And that is all of Knuckles' story. We already reviewed his final boss in Sonic's story earlier, and he only has these 5 stages. They are all really short and quick compared to stages in Sonic Adventure 2, but I still think all of them do have some charm to them. Except for Skydeck, fuck that stage. Now let's move on to the 4th character, Amy.
Which character?
It's my turn now.
Before we dive into her stages, I gotta be straight up about my bias here. I do not like Amy very much in Sonic Adventure DX. She is slow, doesn't have the most exciting levels, and frankly, should probably not even be playable. When I was recording footage for her story, I ended up spending more time watching cutscenes than actually playing the game during my playthrough. Her story doesn't really add anything to the overall plot with Chaos, and is entirely based around these birds and running away from this robot Zero. The bird plot is cute, but doesn't really add a whole lot to the overall Sonic the Hedgehog experience. Even Sonic just completely brushes her off and doesn't care about her bird at all.
No way!
Come on, don't run away. Oh!
Zero is pretty much a non-threat throughout her story, as all of his attacks are incredibly slow and he sometimes just vanishes mid-chase. Like this cutscene here. He's about to charge Sonic and Amy, yet we never see him actually get close to them. Amy gets distracted by the sign and suddenly Zero might as well no longer be here at all. Despite Zero not actually going after Sonic and Amy in that cutscene, he does appear right off the start in Twinkle Park somehow though. This stage is pretty short, but does have this cool tricky mirror section to make it stand out from the other stages, as only Amy goes through this area. The section makes it harder to control, but it's a nice change up. The mirrors also help reveal holes in the floor, but honestly, you don't even need the mirrors. The holes in the floor are clearly marked differently than the others, even without looking in the mirror. It is pretty simple, but I do like how they added this new element to Twinkle Park just for Amy. At the end, we hop on the balloon and escape from Zero. The stage really isn't anything too special, but thankfully it's quick and doesn't have any sections that annoy me on repeat playthroughs. The music is once again great for Twinkle Park, and Amy's unique section has a nice ambient track that is good too. Let's put this stage into the C tier. I don't particularly love or hate this one, it's just kinda here. Next up is Hot Shelter, which is actually a new stage. Pretty crazy we haven't looked at this one yet, because we are already over 40 minutes into this video. Amy's version of Hot Shelter has lots of unique interactions through small puzzles. Amy has to push buttons, spin levers, push stairs, and match cubes with colors to advance. Most of these gimmicks really slow down the pace and don't really add a whole lot to the fun of the level. Amy is already an objectively slow character who walks instead of runs, so these gimmicks really slow down the pace. Like this color matching one. I get that this was designed with young children in mind, but that doesn't mean it has to be this simple. There is a way to skip the last cube matching section, but the skip is really hard and I've never once gotten it to work properly. The track for this stage is great, and platforming at some sections is actually pretty good for an Amy stage. Let me say though, I really mean it is just good for an Amy stage. The platforming here is very basic and doesn't really add a whole lot to the experience. The stage isn't one that I revisit often. Honestly, I pretty much never go back intentionally to play any of these Amy stages. I usually only do so to unlock Supersonic if I'm doing a full playthrough. With that said, this stage is going into the E tier, as it is pretty long and not exciting to me at all compared to most of the other characters' stages. Amy's third and final stage is Final Egg, and it is actually a pretty short stage with only a couple sections to it. It might actually be even shorter than Twinkle Park. We have one part from Sonic's version of Final Egg to start the stage, and a new section just for Amy that features RNG. It's very possible that you could spend close to half your total time in this stage just struggling with the randomness of this section. You simply pick a hallway and hope that the rest of the stage chooses to spawn at the end of said hallway. There are 5 different possible options, so odds are you will pick wrong at least a couple times. I think the developers must have known how short and lacking this stage was, so they added this RNG section to try and pad out the game time a bit. This last section is about 1/3 of the total stage and is the only fully original part just for Amy. Kinda sucks that they put so little effort into her version of this stage. I was just complaining about Hot Shelter being too long, and now Final Egg, which should be a grand finale like big deal stage for Amy, turns out to be just a little quick one that is honestly just as easy as her first stage was. I've been trying my hardest to find positive things to say about these Amy stages, but it really is tough here. I guess I like how Zero pops through the wall at this part. It's kinda cool. I honestly just feel like the developers only prioritized Amy's storyline and did not really care much about how her gameplay was. I think they came up with this cool bird idea for Gamma and decided to throw Amy in just to supplement Gamma's story. Her story adds almost nothing to the game on its own, and I feel like her levels sadly reflect that too. Amy honestly deserved more in this game. It sucks that she still hasn't really gotten a true solo adventure since this one. With all of that said, let's throw Final Egg in the D tier. The cool Eggman themes of this stage just barely save it from the E tier. Amy's final fight is against Zero, and it's actually a decent fight. I really liked this one growing up and always thought it was cool how Amy stands up for herself before the fight starts. It is nice that they finally give us a chance to properly defeat the robot that has been bugging us all game. You can attack him in Amy's normal stages, but he just takes hits like a tank and never actually dies. In this fight though, it is kind of the opposite. He is really easy. You simply have to knock him into the electric fences and then attack his weak point. This fight is honestly a lot like Chaos 2, where there's clear potential here for a good fight, but they slightly ruin it by making the fight a complete cakewalk, with little to no depth to it. Unfortunately, this fight could have been great, but they really made Zero too easy to beat. It's hard to take him seriously as a final boss when you can beat him in 20 seconds. Zero should have had more attacks and more HP too. With those additions, this fight could have been a B or maybe even an A rank boss fight, but with what we currently have, I think this one fits well in the C tier. Well, Amy's story's all done now. She only had the 3 stages and the 1 boss fight. Sadly, they did not rank too well overall, but I still do like Amy as a character. Please don't hate me too much, Amy fans. I tried my best to be positive here, it's just difficult to have fun with her in this game. Next up though, we have a character that I know many of you are excited to see. We got Big the Cat.
Hold on, doggy. I'm coming.
Big stages are generally reviewed quite negatively, but I actually find myself enjoying the character quite a bit. His gameplay style really has no place in a Sonic game, but it's not too bad overall. First up we have Twinkle Park, which, okay, it's pretty bad. It does get better though, I swear. The developers for this stage really did not want to confuse new players, as this stage is literally just one single pool of water. Nothing else to it. This simple design choice also means that the stage occurs before Big gets his life belt upgrade. This upgrade makes life much easier since you can get considerably closer to Froggy before catching him, as you can float on top of the water. Also, the life belt just keeps you safe from drowning, which is great. Make sure to wear your life jackets, kids. Big wears his. Since we don't have our life belt in this stage, we have to instead fish on the edge of the pool. These pool edges can be a bit glitchy and cause the game to glitch out right when you're about to catch Froggy and instead make it not count. Twinkle Park is the worst stage for Big the Cat as it is simple, doesn't have the life belt, and just frankly is extremely forgettable. Or at least the positive parts are forgettable, because I sure can remember the bad parts. This stage single-handedly prevented me from finishing Sonic Adventure DX for years when I was younger. I could finish every other story in the game, but I never even passed the first stage for Big because I could never figure out how to catch Froggy. I still remember the day I learned there was a supersonic story in Sonic Adventure DX. I was at a friend's house from early elementary school, I think around grade 1, when I saw his older brother fighting Perfect Chaos. I had no idea Perfect Chaos even existed, and my mind was blown. I didn't have regular access to the internet and YouTube didn't even exist yet, so this was earth-shattering news to me. I went home and grinded this stage for what felt like hours before I eventually passed it and finished Big's story. So I guess this stage really isn't forgettable. The stage actually specifically stands out to me for giving me a bad time as a kid. Twinkle Park for Big is going into the E tier. There just really isn't anything positive here other than the music. Oh, and also, Big lifts a fucking car to get into the stage. Probably should mention that while we're on the stage, as this is just nuts. Alright, so next up is Ice Cap. Is it better than Twinkle Park? Yes. but not by much. This stage has more to explore and actually has a power-up within the stage itself, as you can find one of Big's lure upgrades in the water, next to this giant fossil. The lure power-up is really only needed if you plan to go for 100% completion, otherwise it is just an extra upgrade to find. We do get the life belt going into this stage, which already puts it ahead of Twinkle Park in my opinion. Ice Cap has more to explore and do than Twinkle Park, but still ultimately is not too great of an experience overall. The exploration is mostly just a distraction. Froggy is still in literally the first pool you encounter, so the exploration really has no point unless you want the lure upgrade. The extra areas are nice, but they are also very glitchy and difficult to navigate. Ice Cap's going into the D tier, as it is an improvement over Twinkle Park, but still pretty bad overall. Thankfully, after Ice Cap, we get to fish in Emerald Coast. I already gushed a whole bunch about why I love the theme and setting of the stage earlier, and it is easily my favorite Big the Cat stage. It is the most open of his stages and does have some exploration, but is easy to navigate compared to Ice Cap and Hot Shelter. This little hidden cave area is one of my favorite spots in the whole game. It is so tranquil and pretty with all of the rare fish swimming nearby, it's just great. Emerald Coast is a great stage setting for fishing, and the execution here is great compared to the other stages. Exploration is an option, but not required, and on top of that, Froggy is easy to locate. Emerald Coast is going into the B tier. This is peak Big gameplay right here. Hot Shelter is the final Big the Cat stage, and you can tell right off the bat. They actually included some platforming for Big. They don't have much confidence in the player though, as they give you 2 shield power-ups right away, but hey, it's something. Hot Shelter is the most complicated stage for Big, as there is exploration, but you have to work a bit to experience it. You first have to use your rod to fish out this drain plug, but be careful. As soon as you do this, the water level where Froggy is rises a lot, making it much harder to catch him. I honestly do not recommend exploring this area unless you are really curious or are going for the A mission and need a large fish. This extra area features cool fish tanks with rare fish and some enemies, but nothing to really make up for the extra work you now have to put into catching Froggy since the water level is raised. Hot Shelter is similar to Ice Cap in that there are cool areas to explore, but getting to them is a bit of a pain and not really worth it. On that note, Hot Shelter is going into the D tier. Big's story is now complete as well. He did have a final boss, but we ranked that earlier in Sonic's story. Not the greatest grades for Big here, but I still do like him as a character. Nowadays, I can beat his story in about 10 minutes, so it really isn't much of a nuisance on repeat playthroughs where I have to play his story to get to Super Sonic. I still don't really go out of my way to play as him, but I don't really see him as the terrible, awful character I did when I was younger. Now, for the final story in the game, Gammas. This one won't take too long to get through, as we already reviewed a couple of his stages earlier, but we still have Super Sonic's story, the adventure fields, and the sub-games to rank after that. Thanks again for making it this far into the video. I really hope you're enjoying it so far. Gamma's story starts off in Eggman's jungle base with a very quick tutorial level. Final egg for Gamma is a cakewalk, as there are only 2 enemies that can even damage you, and there's no platforming anywhere close to a bottomless pit. The goal of the level is simply to destroy a Sonic doll. That's it. This level does a good job introducing the very basic mechanics for Gamma, but is not very entertaining past your first playthrough. Afterwards, we have our first fight against Beta, and it is just as easy, or possibly even easier than that level we just played. I'm going to be ranking these 2 together as they happen in the exact same place and happen at just about the same time. And to top it off, they both deserve the same rank. E. Gamma's version of Emerald Coast has the objective of finding Froggy. Thankfully, he is much easier to get for Gamma than he was for Big, as we don't actually need a fishing rod. This version of Emerald Coast only covers like half of the very first part of Sonic's stage and doesn't really differ a whole lot from Sonic's version, except for, you know, the shooting and lack of speed. The music is still great, but the overall level is rather lacking compared to the original. It also doesn't really feature any sections that are unique to Gamma except for this tiny pathway. There really isn't any reason to play this stage instead of Sonic's unless you really like shooting stuff with Gamma, but even then there aren't a ton of enemies to even shoot in this stage, as you can beat the whole thing in under 30 seconds. Let's put this one in the D tier, just a really underwhelming stage here. After Emerald Coast, we go through Windy Valley and Red Mountain as Gamma, but we already ranked those 2 stages earlier. You can check the timestamps in the description if you for some reason skipped that part and went right to Gamma's story. The next and final stage for Gamma is Hot Shelter. Hot Shelter is by far the longest Gamma stage and is really the only one that heavily features sections that were specifically designed for him. Every other Gamma stage is clearly just a copy and paste with a few minor changes to make the stage work for Gamma. Hot Shelter clearly has a section designed specifically for him, and I'm really glad they gave him at least one stage with some proper level design. Also, since this stage is longer than 30 seconds, it is the first stage where I feel Gamma's timer actually factors in. I haven't actually mentioned it at all yet, but Gamma stages all have a timer that is counting down to 0. Once the timer reaches 0, you die. You can, however, increase the timer by chaining together your shots as you take out enemies. Now, I haven't mentioned this yet because this is really the only Gamma stage where this even slightly factors in. Every other stage is short enough where you can just simply race to the end and not even worry about chaining your shots. Hot Shelter is the first one where there is a real possibility of losing this weight. It still is not a particularly long level, but it still does have some cool sections. I like these parts where Gamma gets grabbed by a giant claw, and the train section near the end is quite cool too. The boss rush level is also the most unique among Gamma's regular stage bosses. The others are all basically copy-paste versions of Beta's first fight, but the fight in Hot Shelter is actually a unique fight. It still is really easy overall, but it does have a cool Easter egg. You can actually spot several Sega Dreamcasts as part of the robot's design. Cool little detail added there by the developers. Hot Shelter overall though is the peak of Gamma's design and the only stage where they really seem to design the level specifically for him. Let's put Gamma's Hot Shelter into the B tier. Easily the best version of Hot Shelter. The final boss for Gamma is actually the same robot we fought in our first fight. These cutscenes throughout Gamma's story hype up this fight as we knew Beta was getting repaired and upgraded by Eggman. Gamma finding this out was part of what inspired him to save all the other animals and stop working for Eggman. The music that starts playing in this fight is amazing, easily one of my favorite tracks in the whole game. The fight itself is also really good too. Beta has multiple effective attacks you can use, and he is actually somewhat properly balanced. He isn't the hardest boss in the world, but he also isn't extremely easy like some of the other bosses in this game. This fight feels like the perfect conclusion to Gamma's story. It feels great seeing Gamma and Beta's birds escape together, and honestly, I'd be lying if I said I hadn't shed a tear at some point in my life during Gamma's death scene. They did a really good job wrapping up the bird storyline with the Beta fight, and I really don't have anything negative to say about this fight. The only thing really I could ask for is that it would be longer so that I could hear more of this great music. Let's put Gamma's final boss fight into the A tier, both a fun fight and impactful in terms of story. Gamma's story is now all done. His rankings are kind of all over the place as he has one of each letter grade. Some of his stages were ranked with Sonic, so you'll have to look a little bit closer to see his gray hedgehog icon there. Well, we're now all done ranking every regular boss and stage. We still have Perfect Chaos to go, but we're going to save that one for last, as it is the climax of the game. With that said, let's now get into the sub-games and adventure fields. Alright, so up next we got the Chao Garden. If you knew me before watching this video, then you likely already know that I have hundreds of videos on just this one part of the adventure series alone. Hell, my damn username is just Chao but spelt wrong. Clearly, I am a pretty big fan of Chao Garden. In the Chao Garden, you can raise your Chao and then race them against other Chao to compete for emblems. You need to get 5 emblems from this part of the game for 100% completion, which honestly kind of sucks in my opinion. I like Chao, but I know that there are many people who don't, and having emblems locked behind this game mode kind of stinks. It takes quite a bit of grinding to raise your Chao strong enough to win the toughest races. It takes hours, even with glitches and exploits to help speed it up. Apart from this complaint though, I don't really have much in the way of bad things to say about the Chao Garden. Adventure 2's Chao Garden is better in just about every way, but this one is still great too for anyone who just really wants to play the first Sonic Adventure game. Chao Garden is going into the A tier. Wouldn't feel right for me to put it anywhere else. Even if that means some of you will make fun of me in the comments, I'm still putting this in the A tier. Next we got an exclusive edition just for the DX Director's Cut version of Sonic Adventure. Mission Mode. This mode is not actually present in the original Dreamcast version, but it adds 60 new missions to complete that are spread out across the playable characters. The missions range in difficulty all the way from Walk in the Park to... I personally would not recommend actually completing all of these missions, as the reward is not worth the difficulty of some missions. As you complete missions, you slowly unlock the Sonic Game Gear games, but honestly, I would just recommend emulating them if you really want to play them. Some missions in mission mode are quite fun, but many of them are quite grueling and just not fun for anyone. I already shared the horrors of Mission 53 earlier in the Ice Cap section, but there are other missions too that are quite difficult. The missions for Big all really suck, as they force you to catch very difficult robot fish in the adventure fields. Some of the pools in the adventure fields were not in any way designed for Big's gameplay, making the mission much harder. Missions like this add almost nothing to the player's experience and solely exist to pad out the total game time. Mission 52 for Big requires you to find 3 flags in the jungle under a very short time limit. Who thought this was a good idea? The jungle's already hard enough to navigate, and now you have us do it with the slowest character? Big is barely fast enough to even get to the top of some of these hills. What the hell, Sonic Team? I do think there are some fun ones though, like Mission 4. This mission has you do some gardening outside of Tails' workshop. Pretty cool, right? Mission 13 has you clear out robots from the Casinopolis showers, which is also neat. Mission mode overall isn't too game-changing, but can add some extra fun to the game for those that are interested. I think this one belongs in the C tier. The worst parts of it easily could go in the E tier, but I do think there is fun to be had here. I even streamed a full playthrough of mission mode if you're interested in seeing what it has to offer, but don't want to subject yourselves to the pains of certain missions. Next we have Twinkle Circuit, which is a side game based off of the first part of Twinkle Park for Sonic. They simplified the track quite a bit and got rid of a lot of the most exciting elements, like the loop and the massive jumps. In Twinkle Circuit, it is just your cart, the track, and the goal of getting the fastest time. The music for Twinkle Circuit is great, and honestly like half of the reason to even visit this side game. It is pretty cool that every character has their own unique cart, and we do get to experience this awesome voice line from Big. Despite giving us this amazing moment, Twinkle Circuit is going to the D tier. It's a good addition to the game, but it is quite bare bones. Doesn't really deserve anything higher than this in my opinion. Next we got Hedgehog Hammer, the fast-paced hammer swinging minigame for Amy. Yeah, there's a good chance you forgot this even existed, but we are still ranking it here as it does actually have a sub-game emblem that you need for 100% completion. This one is real simple. Try to hit the Sonic or Supersonic heads as they come up, but make sure you don't hit Eggman or you will lose points. This Sonic-themed whack-a-mole is a decent little side minigame, but most people will be bored with this one after about 30 seconds. I do like how Eggman just randomly has this next to his prison area on his ship. I guess the logic here is that Eggman's just cool letting people out of his prison if they're good at this game. I don't know, it doesn't really make a lot of sense, but I'm here for it, I like it. Let's put this one in the D tier. It's fun, but it's like a mini game that only lasts 30 seconds. What do you expect here? Alright, so now it's time for the adventure fields. Let's start with Station Square. This one is great. I loved messing around with the cars when I was younger and spent so much time exploring around for secrets. I do like how Station Square does have some optional upgrades that are hidden away for you to find. You can also find little Easter eggs like the Chow in Space poster we mentioned earlier and the burger shop where there's a nervous girl with a crush on a boy. It's got its own like storyline if you actually talk to them throughout the stories. Right across the street from here, they also added a shop which you can rob. They have a rare golden Chow egg in their front window that you can steal. You just gotta simply replace it with an egg-shaped rock. All of these amazing extra secrets are complemented perfectly by the amazing music. Let's go with A tier for Station Square, a great hub world that is also featured in other media like Sonic X and the Archie comics, which is really cool. After Station Square, we got the Mystic Ruins. I have more conflicting thoughts on this one. I really like the area around Tails' workshop and the train station, but the jungle area honestly sucked. It's cool that Big's house is here, but exploring when you don't know the way really sucks and it's just not fun. The Angel Island area is neat, but it sucks how far you have to walk to get over here. It's actually kind of nuts how big the Mystic Ruins are. It's so much bigger than the other two adventure fields. Despite that though, there are actually very few secrets to find. There are some emblems, but not a whole lot else. No exciting Easter eggs really. You can find some upgrades for your characters, but pretty much all of the upgrades here are either required, meaning you'll be forced to get them at some point anyways, or two, they are just terrible. The Mystic Ruins are featured in the Archie comics and Sonic X, but they didn't really have nearly as much of an impact as Station Square did. At least from what I know, I'm not actually an active comic reader. The Mystic Ruins are alright overall, but are underwhelming compared to the other two adventure fields, especially when you consider how big this one is. Let's put this one into the C tier. Not bad, but definitely not great either. And now for the final adventure field, we got the Egg Carrier. This one is a lot of fun. I really like the music here, and this one has some really cool areas to check out. Eggman's Pool is a fun addition from the developers, and I love how they added Eggman's private rooms. We can see both his study and his game room, which are so much fun. I really don't think there had been anything like this prior to Sonic Adventure. Seeing where Eggman lives is really something special.
This ship is too much.
How does this thing fly?
One thing that is important to mention about the Egg Carrier is the quality of stages. I'm not really letting it hold much sway over the ranking here, but the Egg Carrier is home to almost entirely bad stages. Hot Shelter is good for Gamma, but there really isn't much else that is positive here once you leave the adventure field. The field itself though is great. It doesn't have nearly as many secret areas as Station Square, but the ones it does have are lots of fun. Plus, the music is great. I particularly like the theme that plays once the Egg Carrier is crashed in the ocean. Sadly, this theme doesn't really play much in the game, but I do have some mods that make it play more often. so that's cool. Let's put the egg carrier in the B tier, right between Station Square and the Mystic Ruins. Now that the adventure fields have been ranked, it is time for our final ranking of the video, Perfect Chaos. For some reason, the developers decided to spoil this final fight right in the intro cutscene. It is an awesome cutscene and really hypes up the game, but like, you kind of spoiled what happens here, Sega. Perfect Chaos is chaos when he's gotten all 7 emeralds. At this point, he's strong enough to take out Station Square and even destroy the egg carrier, which he does. At this point, he has stopped listening to Eggman and is on his own warpath. The build up to the fight and the story surrounding Chaos and the Echidna tribe is done quite well, as we get a pretty good idea of the disaster that will occur once Chaos gets all 7 emeralds.
The one who sealed chaos in the Master Emerald. Tikal.
They also do a really good job with the character Tikal. I don't think she's really been mentioned at all in this video, but she's a little tutorial sparkle thing that has been there helping us all game. She was trapped in the Master Emerald of Chaos and is now helping us seal him back in. To get rid of Chaos, Sonic needs to become Super Sonic. Thankfully, he's able to do this by using the remaining power of the Chaos Emeralds that Perfect Chaos did not use. As Super Sonic, you can run, jump, and use your homing attack like normal. There really isn't any major changes except that you can now run on water, jump higher, and are invincible as long as you maintain your ring count. Okay, I guess those are pretty major. As soon as you run out of rings though, you die. But you probably already knew that though. To win this fight, you simply have to dodge Chaos's attacks and run into his body at a high speed. Do this enough times and bam, Station Square is saved. This fight is a fairly simple one, but it does have more challenge to it than just about every other fight in the game. I really love that they play Open Your Heart during this fight. Unfortunately, they made a stupid mistake by having it only played during the first phase. They opted for a much more boring, generic, menacing track for the second and final phase for some reason. They got these 2 songs backwards, but if you ask me, the fight should have just been one phase with Open Your Heart playing the whole time. Perfect Chaos is a good ending to Sonic Adventure and a fun way to add Super Sonic to the game. It just sucks that he isn't playable in any other stage without mods. Let's put Perfect Chaos into the B tier. A good ending to the game, but with some minor issues. We are now done ranking every stage, boss fight, game mode, sub-game, and adventure field in Sonic Adventure DX. Thank you so much for sticking around and watching all of this. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch my over-the-top ranking video on an over 20-year-old video game. For those of you that are just now skipping to this part to see what stage I think is best, welcome. I highly encourage you to actually watch the full video. It's not bad. At least I don't think it is anyways. Not sure though. What I am sure about though is my favorite part or section of Sonic Adventure DX. It is a little hard to pick just one of these great A-tier picks, but I am 100% going with Emerald Coast for Sonic. This might seem like kind of a dumb pick since it is literally the first proper stage we ranked. It was at minute 2 of an over 1 hour video, but hey, I still think it's the best. I fucking love that stage. Just like how I love you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed your time with me here. I have another video just like this one, but for Sonic Adventure 2. If you like this one, I'm sure you'll like that one too. I also regularly stream both adventure games and many others too on this YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching and for all of your support. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care.